this video is sponsored by Squarespace. More on that later. All right, let's get this out of the way really quick. I am aware that there's some discourse about whether it's pronounced Ghibli or Ghibli, because even though the name originated from the word Ghibli with a hard G, the Japanese spelling and pronunciation of it is Ghibli. So for the sake of consistency, and since I'm referring to the studio/park itself, I will be pronouncing it as Studio Ghibli. You guys can go argue about it amongst yourselves, but just giving you a heads up so I don't get a million comments about it. Okay, cool. Ghibli Park is an amusement park in Aichi Prefecture that features attractions and replicas based on the movies produced by Studio Ghibli, most notably Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle, Whisper of the Heart, and Princess Mononoke. I've been to Ghibli Park on 3 separate occasions, and it's expanded quite a bit since it first opened in 2022. So I'm here to let you know that if you're a big Ghibli fan, this park is absolutely worth the trip, and I'd like to show you what you can expect if you decide to plan a visit here. First, I'll show you all the B-roll I took on my phone and give you my subjective thoughts on what all the best attractions are. And then I'll talk about the booking process for those who are interested. Because like a lot of things in Japan, you need to book this well in advance. But luckily, the park website makes this process pretty simple. And speaking of sites and making things simple, before I proceed, I'd like to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. Squarespace is the website platform for anyone looking to build their brand or business with a professional-looking website, and are maybe not sure where to start. Whether you're looking to open an online store, showcase your brand or portfolio, or have a site for scheduling appointments with clients for your business, Squarespace makes it easy to do all of those things. Squarespace offers a variety of professional-looking templates that you can customize to fit your needs and create an elevated online aesthetic with dozens of options that fit every brand, industry, and purpose. If you're looking to open your own online store, Squarespace Payments helps you manage your payments in one place and offers your customers multiple online payment options. Squarespace also helps you manage orders, invoices, shipping and fulfillment, and taxes, so all the tools you'd need to smoothly manage your business are all right there in front of you. Squarespace takes all the hassle and stress out of building a website and leaves the customizing and creativity up to you. So if you're interested, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Emirichu to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using code Emirichu. All right, back to the video. The park opens at 10 a.m. on weekdays and 9 a.m. on weekends and holidays, and it closes at 5 p.m. But it's also huge, and there's a lot of space to cover, so I personally don't think that's enough time to see everything, but after multiple visits, I've made like a mental timeline of what I'd see in what order. So first off, the newest area is the Valley of Witches, which I was the most hyped for. So naturally, I gunned it for that area first. And I noticed that there were a lot of people carrying plushies of Heen, the dog from Howl's Moving Castle, and I was confused on why so many people had him at like 9:30 in the morning. And then I found out that he's apparently like a super exclusive plush from the park, and they sell a limited number of him per day at the Valley of Witches merch store. So if you want to get your hands on him, definitely make sure your first stop of the day is the merch store in the Valley of Witches. Now, the attraction that I really wanted to check out was the recreation of the bakery that Kiki works at in Kiki's Delivery Service. The surroundings of this bakery look exactly like a little piece of the European-inspired city that the movie takes place in. And once you get inside, you can actually purchase some baked goods and bottled juices that come packaged with some adorable witch-themed art. The bakery had all sorts of little pastries and baguettes and bread loaves available for purchase, but admittedly, the wait was pretty long and the bread wasn't like mind-blowingly good or anything, so next time I'll probably skip this spot to save time, but I think it was definitely worth the first-time visit. I couldn't film the actual room itself, but if you walk to the back of the bakery outside, you can take the stairs up to the attic where they recreated Kiki's room from the movie. It was really cute, and the attention to detail really made it feel like you stepped into her world. Now, one of the best attractions in this area is the recreation of the castle from Howl's Moving Castle. If you thought this thing looked impressive on the outside, you would not believe the inside. The thing about the replicas in Ghibli Park is that they capture every single detail and then some. One thing to note, though, is that photography isn't allowed in the interior of a lot of these attractions, so I don't actually have any video footage of the inside. But on that note, I actually really like that photo taking is discouraged for these exhibits, because it encourages everyone to just take in the moment and admire the artistry of everything up close and personal, without having to wait for a million cameras. Unfortunately, it means I don't have a lot to show you, but I can guarantee you it would not do it justice anyway. This is something you have to see in person. Inside of Hal's castle, you'll find a recreation of every single room that's shown in the movie, and I don't know how they did it, but yes, that includes Hal's insanely detailed bedroom and his nasty-ass bathroom. They even figure out a way to replicate the way the castle changes location by having the window change scenery every time you turn the doorknob on the front door. They really thought of everything, so if you're a Howl's Moving Castle fan, this attraction is a must-see. Right next to Kiki's Bakery is a big, beautiful Ghibli-themed carousel that features a variety of animals and vehicles you could ride, like Kiki's broom, the Witch of the Wast's carriage, the wolves from Princess Mononoke, Tombo's bike, etc. And it very fittingly played, of course, the Merry-Go-Round of Life tune from Howl's Moving Castle. A ticket to ride costs 1,000 yen, and you get to keep the beautiful little paper ticket stub, which I was very happy to put in my scrapbook when I got home. And for 500 yen, you can also get tickets to ride this Castle in the Sky themed attraction. In the corner of the Valley of Witches, you'll also find the Okino Residence, which is a recreation of Kiki's entire house, including rooms that you don't really get to see in the movie. Again, couldn't record the inside, but the park did an absolutely fantastic job making the house feel lived in, despite it being a recreation of a fictional house. I'm pretty sure there were even real plants in the room where Kiki's mom makes medicine, and there were so many cute details to add to the immersion, like little childhood drawings Kiki drew hung up on the wall, and a record player in the living room where you could ask the staff to switch out the music. Kiki's Delivery Service was the first Ghibli film I ever watched when I was a kid, so this exhibit held a very special place in my heart. Near the entrance, there's actually a recreation of the house from The Earwig and the Witch, but since I haven't seen that movie and it's a very unassuming looking house, I accidentally skipped over it without going inside. The Valley of Witches also has the only full-service restaurant in the entire park, called the Flying Oven. We waited around a little over half an hour to get seated for lunch, and the menu features European-style dishes like shepherd's pie, pork meat pie, and fish and chips, and also beer served in witch-themed packaging. The inside of the restaurant is super spacious, and the service was actually really quick. I ordered the pork meat pie and an eyeball soda float, which came with a generous helping of milk soft serve, a chocolate black cat, and some meringue bones on top. The pork meat pie was really flavorful and juicy, and the pastry puff was nice and crisp. But the green beans and potatoes weren't really seasoned at all, so we requested a side of salt, which the server very kindly brought over for us. Definitely recommend trying this place out if you're looking for a cozy place to sit down and eat. But if you prefer to snack on the go, there's a hot dog stand that sells hot dogs made to look like cat paws holding onto a sausage. Super cute, and this was one of Didas's favorite food items at the park. Since our Ghibli Warehouse ticket was scheduled for 2 p.m., we headed there right after the Valley of Witches. The Grand Warehouse is where they have several Ghibli exhibits and lots of Ghibli-themed displays, and even though everything's in one building, there's a lot to do and see. So first things first, when you enter, you'll be given tickets for their screening room cinema, which is where they show original Studio Ghibli animated shorts, very similar to the cinema room at the Ghibli Museum in Mitaka. You can't really see these animations anywhere else, so I highly recommend catching a showing as soon as you enter the warehouse. One of the most popular exhibits is the interactive exhibit where you can take pictures in various different film scenes, which is super cool since it's one of the few exhibits where you're allowed to take pictures. But from my experience, the wait is always really long. I remember when we went, it took about an hour and a half to wait and get through everything. So if you really want the Ghibli-themed photo ops, it might be worth it for you. But if you don't really care that much about taking pictures with the displays and the line is super long, then it might be a better use of your time to go elsewhere or come back later and hope the line is shorter. For me, the first time was fine, but now it's an easy skip because of how much time it eats up. My personal favorite exhibit in the warehouse is the Animating Memorable Meals exhibit, which is dedicated to the age-old question of, how does Ghibli food always look so good? In this exhibit, you'll get to see animation keyframes from some of the studio's most iconic food scenes, and some beautiful fake replicas of all the tantalizing meals and recreations of kitchens from different Ghibli films. Right next door to this exhibit is a display of Ghibli movie posters, DVDs, and books from various different countries. And it's also where you can take a picture with a giant cat bus replica from My Neighbor Totoro. And the line is usually not very long at all, so it goes through pretty quickly. Definitely worth checking out. Aside from these exhibitions, there's lots to look at inside the warehouse, so I encourage you to take your time walking around and appreciating all the displays, most of which you're able to take pictures of, like this display of Yubaba sitting at her desk, where it kind of looks like you're peeking into her office, or this area that's made to make you feel like you shrunk down to Arietti size. During my second visit, they even had the Oscar for The Boy and the Heron on display, but unfortunately, it appears it's been removed from the warehouse since then. If you end up feeling a little hungry, there's a cafe that serves sandwiches and pizza, and the sandwiches come with a little paper flag toothpick stuck in them. And of course, your warehouse visit isn't complete without a visit to the merch store, which is also where the building exit is conveniently located. I could not take any footage of the merch store, but there was a lot. If you're a big My Neighbor Totoro fan, then you should absolutely take one of the park buses over to Dondoko Forest and make your way over to Satsuki and Mei's house. This house is an exact recreation of the house from the movie, and they did a really great job with making this feel more like a legit house than a display, even down to the dad's extremely messy study room. You're even required to remove your shoes before you enter. So for me, it always feels like I'm trespassing into someone's 1950s country house. One of my favorite adorable little details is the way you can see Mei and Satsuki's shoes right outside their back door. At the top of the hill behind the house, you can make your way over to the giant wooden Totoro-shaped statue. But I personally always skip this one because it's a playground structure meant for kids, and usually at this point of the day, my feet are killing me and I don't want to walk uphill. I'd say the most underwhelming area in the park compared to all the others is Mononoke Village, which is inspired by the mountain village landscape in Princess Mononoke. And there are a total of like 3 different things to look at here. There's a slide based off the old boar god, a statue of the demon spirit, and a building that I think is supposed to look like Irontown, where you can learn to make a grilled mochi for 1,200 yen per person. There's a merch shop in the corner that sells a small collection of items, and is also where you can buy San and Ashitaka's hats. I have nothing against this particular area. I think it's still very nice and peaceful, but it's definitely not an area that you need to race to beat a crowd. So you can just check this one out whenever you have some downtime to kill. And lastly, the Hill of Youth area has one of my personal favorite displays, which is the Cat Bureau from The Cat Returns, which is one of my favorite Ghibli films. The Cat Bureau is accurately cat-sized like the one in the movie, and if you take a peek inside, you'll find Baron and Muta relaxing inside with their adorable tiny furniture and a functional cat-sized grandfather clock, and various other items that you might recognize from the movie. I was so unbelievably excited when I saw this display, and I love that you can open some of the windows and get a better look at the beautifully decorated interior. According to the park website, the construction of this building and its foundation used the same techniques as the construction of a real house. I'm assuming it's so it can withstand all sorts of weather, earthquakes, and possibly anyone trying to squeeze themselves inside like Haru did. During my most recent trip to Ghibli Park, I saved this area for last because it was the one closest to the exit, and I really loved how the lit street lamp and house light looked when it started getting darker. Just a few steps over from the Cat Bureau is the World Emporium, which is the antique shop from Whisper of the Heart. Photography is not allowed inside, so I can't show anything here, but like every other replica house in the park, it is exceptionally detailed and looks exactly like the one from the film. So, now let's talk about actually booking tickets for the park. The most important detail you should know is that tickets for Ghibli Park go on sale 2 months in advance on the 10th of every month at 2 p.m. Japan time. Luckily, they have a page on their site specifically for if you're buying tickets internationally. If you're in Japan, there's a separate site for domestic tickets. You can get on the site and wait before the tickets go live, but you'll get placed randomly in the queue once it opens. So I usually just show up like 5 minutes beforehand and hope for the best. For all of my visits, I made sure to book the Osampo Premium Day Pass, which is a ticket option that gives you access to all 5 areas of the park, including the special building attractions that you will absolutely want to see. The regular standard day pass will still give you access to the 5 areas, but not the buildings, so make sure you book the premium pass for the premium viewing experience. You can enter these areas at any time except for the Ghibli Warehouse, which will have an assigned entry time when you buy your ticket, so make sure you pay attention to it and work around that. When you plan your trip, I definitely recommend booking a hotel for the night before so you can head to the park first thing in the morning. Nagoya Station conveniently has a bus that takes you directly to the park, which takes about a half hour. Ghibli Park is on my list of go-to spots to take friends when they come visit, so if you're a fellow Ghibli fan, Definitely consider adding this to your itinerary for your next Japan trip. And if there's any other interesting places in Japan you think I'd like to see, feel free to leave a suggestion down in the comments.